Hi guys, my name is Christine, and today I'm talking about working on your weaknesses. So, why is working on your weaknesses important? So, many of us, we like to work on things that we're good at, we like to do things that we're good at. But when you work on your weaknesses, what you're doing is you are becoming stronger in those areas. And if you become stronger in the areas that you're not good at, you can therefore become a better, more well rounded person. So, obviously, you need to pick and think about what it is you're not good at, because there's no point you getting good at mountaineering or being a mountain climber when that's not something that you are interested in. It's not something that you feel like is important to your own goals and career things, that sort of thing, right? So obviously you need to pick and choose the things that you are insecure about, working on those things that you find that you're weak at. So, for example, for me, one of my weaknesses is doing public speaking. So, that's one of the reasons why I make videos, because I feel like, first of all, it's a good way to get my message across. Secondly, in fact, if anyone who has an internet business, you should be producing some sort of content. So I'm not very good at this sort of thing. When I make videos, I sweat, I get nervous, I'm not comfortable doing this sort of thing. But yet I do it all the time because I know with repetition, if I keep on doing it, I'm going to get better. And of course, it's necessary for the line of work that I'm trying to do with my life and my career. So that's just an example there. So what are the things that you need to work on? It could be in your career, it could be with other goals that you may have. What are you avoiding? What are you not good at? What are you insecure about? Work on those things so you can become better and good. So that's why it's important to work on your weaknesses so you can become stronger and a better, well-rounded person in the fields that you have chosen to work in. It could also be with hobbies as well. So it all depends on that. So I think everyone has in mind whenever when I say, work on your weaknesses, what things those could be for you, right? You're aware of what you're not good at. You're aware of what you're insecure about. Right, so having a good awareness of yourself and what you're not good at, what you're insecure about, is obviously key there, right? But I think everyone has a good knowledge of what they're not really that good at and what they probably should get better at and what they should work on. So, because by doing that, by working on your weaknesses, by working on the things that you're insecure about, you become more confident, right? You become more competent as well in that area. So, it's definitely worth doing. We shouldn't be avoiding. And I feel like most people do. Like, a lot of people do avoid the things that makes them feel uncomfortable, that makes them feel like, oh, yeah, I really don't want to do that. That's really going to push me today if I try and do that. But but you got to think of, oh, well, what if I actually accomplish that? What if I actually get good at that? So let's say, for example, let's say that you also get nervous at doing any sort of public speaking. I'm nervous just talking in front of a camera, so I can't ever imagine what it would be like if I ever had to talk in front of a crowd. I would be not good, right? Right, I would be very, very, very nervous if I had to do something like that. But we all have like these things that we know that we should be working on. But if you imagine, like, oh my God, if I actually got really good at that thing, whatever that thing may be for you, just imagine how great I will feel and how proud I would feel of myself if I actually managed to be better at that, if I actually managed to master that. So having that as like your inspiration can really help. So, like, if you're, bad at public speaking and you start getting better at that, so perhaps you pick up the Dale Carnegie book on public speaking, and then you start, making speeches, you start like volunteering to, let's say, be ahead of a meeting or something at work or something like that. Or perhaps you're at school or college and you decide to do a speech, perhaps they have some sort of public speaking events that you can go to there. That you can do. You can volunteer yourself to do that sort of thing. It will make you more stronger, more mentally tough, and it'll help you become better in all facets of your life. Like, if you get really confident at one thing, you usually get more confident at other things, especially if the thing that you are now confident in was once something that you weren't confident in, because that just shows you that how much potential you have, because you, as a human being, you have unlimited potential, really. There's so many things that you could do and you could be and you could become better at. But unfortunately, most of the population tends to shy away from things they're good at and tends to just focus on what they're good at, and they just keep on doing what they're good at because it's just easier to do something that you're good at. It's easier to do something that you have an innate talent at. It's easier to do something that you're really competent at, and it's difficult to do something that you're not good at, that you think is a weakness for you. But if you get better at that, you get to see firsthand how much you really have inside of you, how much potential that you have inside of you. So it should be like an inspiration for you to actually work on your weaknesses, to be drawn to doing things that makes you feel a bit uncomfortable. Because once you master it, you get to feel how proud of yourself you are. Because, you know, some people will say, you know, I could easily say to you, oh yeah, I'm not going to make videos, I'm not going to do any sort of public speaking anymore because, you know, I feel nervous when I do it, I'm not good at it. And I feel like that's a lot of attitude that a lot of people have. They have the attitude of, oh, I'm not going to do that because I'm just not good at that. It's just part of who I am. It's just who I am. I'm not good at that. When in reality, if they worked on that, they could actually become better at that. They could actually become more competent at that, right? It's like you see people who are, you know, shorter than what you would expect to play basketball. But, you know, even though they say, oh yeah, you can only play basketball if you're really tall. But that's not always the case. There have been people that are under 6 foot that have managed to dunk a basketball, managed to be a good basketball player. So, you know, that's not just because, you know, people put limitations on you. And this is one of the things, right? You know, sometimes people say to you, oh, you cannot do that because you're this height, or because you look like that, or because that's just your temperament. But you decide what you're good at. You know, I think a lot of us have had like these things said to us, especially when we were kids, unfortunately. You know, people have put limitations on us, right? But you don't have to accept that as fact. You don't have to accept that as truth. Like, oh yeah, you're really shy, you shouldn't be a public speaker. That was me, right? I was a really timid child. I didn't speak to hardly anybody. I would only speak to people unless they spoke to me first. And that included children my own age. So I was pretty much alone, or I would only have like one friend at a time. And that one friend was usually either someone who I was forced to hang out with because our parents were like putting us together so that they could babysit us or something like that. Or when just children came up to me when I was a kid and started speaking to me, and then I would be friends with that person because they made the effort they made the effort first, basically. But I was really shy. I was really timid. Now I'm okay to like go up and start a conversation with someone. But that was something that was a huge insecurity for me. Doing this is a huge insecurity for me. I'm not good at this kind of stuff. And you can sometimes probably tell that I'm not good at that by, you know, how many times I go, or how many times I like put in fillers or something like that. You know, like something like that is one of my fillers. I say that all the time, right? So, you know, you work on those things that you find are weaknesses because you'll feel so much better and so much more proud of yourself if you actually get to master those things. You know, public speaking and doing this sort of thing where I'm speaking in front of a camera, you know, that's something that I'm still not, I believe, that great at. You know, I still feel like I've got a long way to go before I feel completely comfortable, even just in, you know, this space that I'm in now in my office, talking to a camera, right? So, you know, I feel like I'm like maybe at 20% better than what I used to be, but I've still got a long way to go. But when I work on it every day, I feel really proud of myself. I feel really good about myself. So, you know, there are some areas, well, just before I get into that, you know, what this will do as well, if you work on your insecurities, if you work on things that make you feel uncomfortable, it will actually really help your willpower, and it'll help you become more confident in that area and develop that strength, that inner resilience. Because doing things that make you feel uncomfortable strengthens your willpower, because sometimes it's so much easier to go to our comfort zone, to do things that make us feel comfortable. But if you're only doing things that make you feel comfortable, then you're becoming, you're not developing your willpower. You're not getting stronger in that way. Yeah, especially if you feel like, okay, I'm going to do this today, but then you don't end up doing it. You go and do what you feel comfortable with. You don't do the thing that's going to make you uncomfortable. But if you work on your insecurities, it will develop your willpower, okay? So here are some areas that you might need improvement in, right? So one area is your social life, right? Perhaps you're not good at speaking to people. Perhaps you're not good at starting conversations with people. perhaps you're really nervous when you're in a group of people, then what I recommend that you do then to try and work on that by talking to more people, by just, going for it basically. And also picking up a book like How to Win Friends and Influence People, because that really does help with developing your social skills. And you actually what's really cool about that is you actually get to understand that you don't actually need to do much when it comes to communicating. If you want to try and get better at communicating with people, all you have to do is just, start a conversation with someone and ask them questions, and you can just sort of sit back while the other person talks. So it's a lot easier than what you may think to develop your social skills. Another area that you might be one of your weaknesses right now is your health. So, obviously with that sort of thing, then you need to work on eating healthier things, exercising, which obviously brings, you need a lot of willpower sometimes to exercise, because no one ever really wants to do a workout. At least not every single day. Like sometimes you'll feel motivated to do a workout, but I don't know about you, but most of the times, I'd rather not work out than work out, okay? So another area might be your work. Perhaps there are some things that you need to do that is necessary for you to progress in your career. Like for example, perhaps you do need to lead a few more meetings, but you've been kind of sitting back and you've not been able to get that promotion because you've needed to do that. It's the same if you're like a student and you're at school. Perhaps there are some areas, some things that you're not good at. Perhaps you're really bad at mathematics, or perhaps you're not good at English and you need to work on that so you can get a better grade in that. Because if you're already good at mathematics and it's something that comes naturally to you, then you don't need to work on that as much. You need to work on the subjects that you're not as good at, right? So that's one thing there. Your hobbies, perhaps there are some things that you've always wanted to do but you feel like you can't do because you feel like you're just not good at it. Like perhaps you've always wanted to learn to play a guitar but you feel like you're not going to be good at it. These are things that if this is important to you, then you should definitely try and go for it and start learning how to do that. So that's just another thing there. It could be your finances. Perhaps you need to pick up a book like Rich Dad Poor Dad so you can learn more about how to become more wealthier. It might be like your family. Perhaps there's some parts in your family area that you need to improve. Like perhaps you need to learn to pick up a book on parenting and practice that. Perhaps it's something to do with your communication with your spouse. So you pick up a book like Men are from Mars and Women are from Venus, so you get to understand the communication differences between men and women. And then start practicing it. Like I'm offering books here, but a book is useless unless you don't apply it, right? That's something very, very important. In fact, I'm going to repeat it. If you read a book, it's useless unless you apply it, unless you use what you've learned and actually start practicing it. Right, another thing might be other goals that you have, like perhaps you want to have a business on the side while you do your 9 to 5. Perhaps you want to grow a following on your blog or something like that. Then that's again something that you need to work on. But doing all of this will develop your willpower. It'll make you feel better about yourself. It'll make you feel more confident about yourself, and it'll make you more competent in those areas. And just imagine how amazing you're going to feel once you've beaten this insecurity, once you've beaten this weakness, and it's actually now one of your strengths. That's something really that I find that personally inspirational, and I hope you found that inspirational too. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally, then please go to www.christineloveridger.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.